Hey everyone, this is Kurse here, and I have some good news. Exams are over, so I've got about 10 days to do whatever I want. So I decided I'm going to do a couple tutorial videos. A while back, someone in my messages asked me to do a tutorial on sidechaining. And there are multiple ways to sidechaining. Thing is, you need to understand that there is no right or wrong way to sidechain. You can sidechain using compression, you could sidechain using a plugin, you can sidechain through limitation, or you could sidechain manually through automation. I'm going to show you all the techniques. So here's a demonstration of where I believe sidechaining is required. And this is a rough, very, very rough edit. I've only spent like an hour on this so far, of K-Drew's Last Train to Paradise. This is a remix that myself and Chris Ellison, or Eversky, are creating. And here's what I got so far. So the area I think needs sidechaining is obviously these bits. Now I've already done a little bit of sidechaining on the voice when I was making the drum edit, and this is basically where I just plan out where all the drums are going to go. I've got some funky little breakbeat shit, which is going to be pre-recorded mostly. I'm thinking about redoing all of that. And so the bits I want to sidechain is I want to sidechain this synth here. This main da, da. I'll play it for you as a single. Now I know I want to sidechain that because it is really intense and it sort of swallows up the ARP a little bit. So the ARP is making this as soon as I unmute it. And the sad thing is that the ARP is always going to get swallowed up, so that's fine. Anyway, onto the sidechaining. So first thing you need to think of is what layers you are using. So I know that I have saw chords, I have a sort of growl that's hiding underneath, and I have a sub bass. So the kind of sidechaining I will probably use in this situation is a limitation-based sidechaining, because it's a very processed sound. And I don't want to get it too loud, so I can sort of benefit from using a limiter as well as using the compressor feature on here. So I'm going to, first of all, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new drum sound that is going to be my sidechain. So here I think I'm just going to use a stop kick because everyone has it. So I'm going to rename this, I'm going to call it Sidechain, just so I know that it is most definitely what I'm looking for. I like to change the color as well. So I know for certain that that's what I'm doing. However, I believe I've already created, so I've already created a sidechain here. So pattern 3 is my sidechain, and you see these 4 kicks here, that is the way the sidechain is going to work. So I've got the vocals on sidechain so far, so if I just deactivate the ARP and the kick, you can hear. And it's when the audio is ducking in. You can actually see in the Fruity limiter what's happening to the audio while it's being sidechained. So basically what's happening is that there's all these transients coming through, all the audio waves, and it's set to a certain threshold, a certain volume limit, and as soon as the audio goes over a certain limit, the sidechain will kick in, and that's basically dictated by this thing called the compression knee, and the threshold. So if I turn the threshold up, that means that the volume of this can go really loud until the sidechain finally starts kicking in. So if I turn this all the way up, I don't think the sidechain will kick in yet. Yeah, it won't kick in. But if I turn it down to about there, there's the slightest bit of sidechaining. So that's basically what happens when you sidechain. So I've got the sidechain track here, and I usually assign it to FX slot 99 because it's really out of the way. No one can see. You can't touch it by accident, and I'll know where it is, especially with its bright colors because it's fabulous. Right, to sidechain using a limiter, you find the track that you want to sidechain, and you right-click this little arrow here. So in this instance, I'm going to be sidechaining the saw chords. You right-click this little arrow here. Oh, shit, Mac mouse. You right-click here and sidechain to this track. You can also do sidechain to this track only, but I'm planning on using this sidechain for more than one track. You know, it's using the vocals, and you click like that, and bam, it's now sending to the. It's now sidechaining this track, but there's nothing on it which is dictating that it's being sidechained. Also, I would like to mention that when you do have a kick drum that's assigned to a sidechain, if you don't want it to make any volume, there's this little thing, this little arrow here. It says enable send from sidechain to master. Turn this off. That basically means that no audio will go through the master channel. It will not process audio from that insert. It will only process the audio waves and how it affects our sounds. Go away. So it's on my saw chords. I'm going to go into Fruity Limiter. I'm going to go into the compression options. Usually on limiter, click on compression, sidechain, drag up to 1. And it doesn't go past that unless you add more than one sidechain. You can add like 10 different sidechains onto it, and it basically just stacks. So the first one will be going to the growl under, the second one will be going to the sub bass, and the third one will finally be going onto the sidechain. But I don't want that, because then it'll get messy, and nobody likes messy bass lines with crappy sidechain. Right, so I have the saw chords. I know that what I'm going to do is whenever there's a kick drum, I'm going to include a sidechain. I can be quite clever, and I can play around with this feature a bit. So I can have like a sidechain wherever I want just now. So I'll play the sound for you, and nothing's going to happen just yet. Nothing is going to happen. And this is because I've not adjusted the threshold and the knee. So you see the audio waves. So I know I don't have to turn the threshold down too much. So I could put it to about there. And then the knee here is what that large arrow there is doing. It's going to then bring that down. And basically what that means that is where it's going to actually start sidechaining. And the ratio can maybe tighten that up a little bit, but I don't really see much use for it if you could just turn down the threshold. You can mess around with the ratio, but you know, you don't have to. So this is what it's going to sound like now with the sidechain. Not very effective. Turn down a bit more. And that's what sidechaining does. I'm going to include this here as well, because I just want that. I'm also going to apply the same thing to the growl, again using a limiter. I'm going to turn in the knee because I know it's going to be quite intense. And I'm going to apply it to the sub bass. And I know a few of you might be going, what are you doing? Don't apply it to the sub bass because you don't want to bring the sub bass volume down too much. But honestly, I think the sub bass should be sitting at around about minus 6 dB at all times. So I kind of want to put a limiter on there just in case. And yeah, it might compress the sound a little bit, but I'll probably go over it a little bit later and, you know, fix up stuff. But for now, I'm just teaching you how to sidechain. Sidechain to this track, sidechain to this track. Same again for a limiter, sidechain up, ratio's already set. Sub bass, sidechain up, and listen to it now. That's interesting. That's very interesting. Yeah. It's just like ignoring the sidechain. Oh, there we go. Oh yeah, because it had gone past. That makes sense. Right, so yeah, that's one way of sidechaining. There is another way of sidechaining. It is a bit overly complicated in my opinion, and it's all right, but I don't see the point in it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take off this, and I've got this compressor on here, but I'm going to deactivate that because I don't trust it. And I'm going to create a new instance of the Fruity compressor. Right, Fruity compressor. You see this threshold thing here? It does exactly the same as what the limiter does. So if you just turn that down, this basically assigns where the sidechain is going to kick in. So we're going to turn that down. I'm going to go over to the sidechain track, and I'm going to create an instance of something called peak controller. Yeah, and I have no idea what this does, but I just do it anyway. And you can also, one thing that's a little bit easier is you can set it to mute from here, so you don't have to deactivate it from the send channel. So I can make this drum a mute, and I can just link it through. So what's going to happen is I'm going to go to my saw chord, go to compressor, and on ratio, no, on threshold, I'm going to right click, I'm going to do link to controller. Internal controller, and there's this thing here that says peak control sidechain peak. You click on that. Something else you need to do, this thing says mapping formula. You click on this little drop down menu and click inverted. Basically this means that the audio is going to duck out and then come back up again. So when the peak controller is activated, the audio will duck out and come back up again. That's all you need to know. And this ratio affects how much the sidechain will actually affect the main sound. So listen to it now. And you can also adjust the attack and stuff like that. The attack is how quickly the sidechain will come in. The release is how long it will take until the sidechain is done. The gain, don't touch the gain unless you want to distort your sound. So I can apply that to all these other, again, that's another form of sidechaining. And there's another two ways of sidechaining. This way is hazardous. You right click here and you click link to controller. Again, sidechain peak, set to invert. Now what's going to happen is that basically the peak controller is now automating this volume knob. So you've pretty much voided the use of using the main master volume knob on your insert. I don't like using this way of sidechaining. I used to, and now I hate it. So listen to what happens now, and you can actually see what happens. It's horrible. I don't know why anyone decides to do it, but you can do it like that. So it's one way of sidechaining, and you can adjust the volume threshold and stuff like that, the bass, peak level, decay speed, all that sort of stuff from the sidechain. And the last way to sidechain is, actually no, there's two ways. There's another two ways to sidechaining. You can actually install a plugin or a couple of plugins which allow you to which basically form a wave shape on the beginning of a sound, and you can set it to a certain time, like 4/4 or whatever, and it'll automatically sidechain the sound. I know Nicky Romero has a plugin. It doesn't install on my computer, but I've got it. Just need to try and find it. Plugins. Nicky Romero Kickstart. And basically, it's just a plugin which just looks at the wave pattern of your sound and just ducks out the audio in a certain shape. And you can adjust the shape of this kick to make it sound more the way you want it. In my opinion, it's like a cheater's way to sidechain using compression, because you're effectively just shaping the wave using compression, but this time as a visualizer. So it's It's a cheat way, but you know, if you don't want to go through all these complex methods, you can do that. And the last way is by right-clicking on the volume knob and clicking Create Automation Clip. Yes, this is manual sidechaining. People are like, there's no such thing. And I'm like, yes, there is. You may call it something else like volume automation, but this is technically sidechaining because you are ducking out the audio of a certain song or a certain track and then bringing it back. And simple as you think, basically the volume comes out and then comes back up again. And you can set how loud it is, and it's much easier than any other type of sidechaining. It just takes a lot of time. And yeah, that is every single form of sidechaining known to me, and possibly anyone else. There's probably a dozen other ways of doing it, but I don't want to overcomplicate things. So thank you for staying tuned. I hope this helped whoever sent me a message. I cannot remember who you are. The next tutorial will probably be on some sort of synthesis, probably growls and massive and stuff like that, like basic growl synthesis. So until then, see y'all later.